I can't believe you're actually doing this well without me. My name is Sandra Mackenzo. I'm 52 years old. The voice on the other end of the phone belonged to someone I'd blocked 6 months ago, someone who'd managed to reach me through a mutual friend's number, someone who'd sent me a text that still burned in my memory, "Come crawling back when you fail." Before we embark on this incredible journey together, I have a small heartfelt request. Please subscribe to my channel, give this video a like. It costs you nothing but means the world to me. And let me know in the comments which beautiful corner of the world you're watching from. Your support truly makes a difference. I should probably explain how I got to this moment. Standing in my new office in downtown Portland, looking out at the city I'd moved to, despite everyone telling me I was making the biggest mistake of my life. The same city where my ex-business partner Alex had said I'd never survive without his connections and expertise. But let me start from the beginning, because this story isn't really about him. It's about what happens when someone tries to define your worth, and you decide to write a different ending entirely. It was March 15th, 2024, when everything fell apart. I was sitting in our shared office space on Burnside Street, going through the books of our consulting firm, Mackenzo and Associates Marketing Solutions. We'd been partners for 3 years, building something I thought would last. Alex handled the big client presentations while I managed operations, strategy, and honestly, most of the actual work. That morning, I discovered something that made my stomach drop. Invoice discrepancies, client payments that didn't match our records, money that should have been in our joint account, but somehow wasn't. "Alex," I called across our cramped office, "we need to talk." He looked up from his laptop, that easy smile I'd once found charming, now seeming calculated. "What's up, Vic?" I slid the printouts across his desk. "These invoices, the Nordstrom account, the brewery chain, Thompson Industries, the payments don't match what's in our books." His face didn't change, but I caught the slight tightening around his eyes. Probably just delayed transfers. You know how corporate accounting works. But I did know how corporate accounting worked. I had my CPA, 15 years of experience, and a memory for numbers that had saved us countless times. These weren't delays. The next few days taught me more about my business partner than 3 years of collaboration ever had. I started with what I should have done from the beginning, checking our business banking statements line by line. What I found was systematic, clever, and absolutely devastating. Alex had been redirecting client payments to a separate account for 8 months. Not huge amounts each time, but enough that we were hemorrhaging money while I wondered why we couldn't seem to get ahead. "This is about trust, Alex," I said when I confronted him 3 days later. We were in the office after hours, the building empty except for the security guard downstairs. He leaned back in his chair, suddenly looking different, colder. "You always were too suspicious, Sandra. This is why you'll never be more than a number cruncher." "I'm not suspicious. I'm thorough. There's a difference." "Is there?" He stood up, grabbing his jacket. "Look, things are tight right now. I borrowed against some receivables. It's not stealing, it's cash flow management." "Borrowed? From our joint account? Without telling me?" "I'm telling you now." I had my phone recording the conversation, something my divorce attorney had taught me years ago. "So you admit you took money from client payments without my knowledge?" "I admit I made executive decisions while you were buried in spreadsheets." The casual dismissal in his voice was worse than the theft. Like I was some clerk he had to tolerate rather than the partner who'd built half our client base. "I want it back, Alex, all of it, and I want a forensic audit of our books." He laughed, actually laughed. "Or what? You'll sue me?" "Sandra, I have relationships in this city you couldn't dream of. I brought in every major client we have. Without me, you're just another middle-aged consultant with a calculator." The words hit like a physical blow, but I kept my voice steady. "We'll see about that." He was at the door now, keys jingling. "Yeah, we will. Good luck explaining to the Nordstrom team why their project manager just vanished. Good luck convincing Thompson Industries that you can handle their expansion strategy alone. You know what they'll think? They'll think exactly what I know, that you were always the assistant, never the leader." I watched him leave, my hands trembling slightly as I stopped the recording. But not from fear, from rage. Pure, clean rage that burned away doubt and left something harder behind. That night, I made 3 decisions that would change everything. The first decision was documentation. Every email, every contract, every text message between us got copied and organized. The second was legal advice. I called Sarah Kowalski, the attorney who'd handled my divorce 5 years earlier. If anyone understood financial manipulation wrapped in smooth talk, it was Sarah. The third decision was the hardest. I was going to dissolve our partnership and start over. Alone. "You're sure about this?" Sarah asked during our meeting the next afternoon. Her office overlooked Pioneer Square, all glass and polished wood that screamed competence. "Partnerships can be saved with proper mediation." "Not this one." I slid the printed bank statements across her mahogany desk. "Look at March 8th, March 22nd, April 15th. He's been siphoning money for months." Sarah's expression grew sharper as she studied the numbers. "This is more than a dispute. This is embezzlement." "Can we prove it?" "With these records and that recording you made? Absolutely." She leaned back in her chair. "But litigation could take years and cost more than you'd recover. Are you prepared for that fight?" I thought about Alex's laugh, his casual cruelty, his assumption that I was nothing without him. "I'm not sure I want to fight that battle. I want to fight a different one." "Which is?" "I want to prove him wrong." The dissolution paperwork took 2 weeks to prepare. Sarah structured it carefully. Alex would keep the existing business name and office, but he'd have to buy out my share at fair market value and reimburse the client funds he'd redirected. In exchange, I wouldn't pursue criminal charges. "You're being generous," Sarah warned as we finalized the documents. "I'm being strategic. I want out clean, with my reputation intact and enough capital to start fresh." Alex's reaction was exactly what I expected. Entitled indignation mixed with relief that I wasn't pushing harder. "Fine," he said, when served with the papers. "But don't come crawling back when reality hits. You have no idea how hard it is to build a client base from scratch." I almost told him about the 3 Nordstrom executives who'd already reached out to me personally, concerned about continuity on their project. I almost mentioned that Thompson Industries had specifically requested that I remain their point of contact regardless of our partnership status. Instead, I smiled. "I guess we'll find out." 2 days later, he sent the text that still made my jaw clench. "Come crawling back when you fail." I stared at those words for a long time, sitting in my apartment with boxes of office supplies and client files stacked around me. Then I took a screenshot, blocked his number, and got back to work. Building a business from nothing is terrifying in ways people don't warn you about. It wasn't the practical stuff that nearly broke me. I had clients, I had experience, I had enough savings to cover 6 months of expenses. It was the psychological warfare my own brain waged every single day. What if Alex was right? What if you really were just the assistant? What if Thompson Industries only worked with you because you were cheaper than the bigger firms? What if? But then I'd remember his voice saying, "middle-aged consultant with a calculator," and the fear would transform into something more useful, determination. I started Sandra Mackenzo Strategic Consulting on May 1st, 2024, working from my dining room table with a laptop and a prayer. My first official act was sending careful, professional emails to every client I'd worked with over the past 3 years. Not soliciting, not bad-mouthing Alex, just letting them know about my new venture and offering to answer any questions about ongoing projects. The responses surprised me. Jennifer Martinez from Nordstrom called within 2 hours. "Sandra, thank God. We were worried about what would happen to the Q3 campaign launch. Alex seems scattered lately." Scattered. That was a polite way of saying what I'd noticed too, that without someone handling the details, following up on deliverables, and managing timelines, Alex was all presentation and no substance. Thompson Industries was more direct. "We want you to finish the expansion strategy," their COO told me during a hastily arranged coffee meeting downtown. "Alex pitched the concept well, but you're the one who actually understands our operations." By the end of my first week, I had 3 active contracts and 2 more in negotiation. Not from stealing Alex's clients, from doing what I'd always done, delivering results that spoke for themselves. The real test came in June when Nordstrom's campaign launched. It was a digital strategy I'd developed entirely on my own, targeting their younger demographic with sustainable fashion messaging. The metrics were beyond what anyone had projected. Engagement up 40%, sales conversion up 25%, and social media buzz that had their compete. I'd scrambling to catch up. That's when the word started spreading in Portland's business community, not through networking events or smooth-talking presentations, through results. My phone rang on a Tuesday morning in July, unknown number from a 503 area code. "Sandra Mackenzo, Strategic Consulting, this is Sandra." "Ms. Mackenzo, this is David Park from Cascade Brewery Group. I'm wondering if you have time to discuss a potential project." I'd heard of Cascade, craft brewery chain, 6 locations, expanding rapidly. Also, I realized with a jolt, one of the accounts Alex used to brag about landing. "Of course, Mr. Park. What can I help you with?" "Well," he said, and I could hear the discomfort in his voice. "We had a consultant working on our brand positioning strategy, but the relationship isn't working out. We need someone who can actually deliver, not just talk about delivering." I kept my voice neutral, professional. "I'd be happy to discuss your needs. When would be convenient for you?" But inside, I was smiling. The Cascade Brewery meeting was scheduled for the following Thursday at their flagship location in the Pearl District. I arrived 15 minutes early, which turned out to be perfect timing. As I walked toward the brewery's entrance, I saw Alex coming out of the building, his face flushed with either anger or embarrassment. He spotted me immediately. For a moment, we just stared at each other on the sidewalk, him looking disheveled despite his expensive suit, me in my favorite navy blazer with a folder of materials under my arm. "Sandra," his voice was flat, "I should have known." "Known what?" "That you'd try to steal my clients the moment I turned my back." I kept my expression neutral, though my heart was racing. "I'm here for a meeting that was offered to me. That's how business works." "Business?" He stepped closer, and I caught the coffee and stress smell that had become familiar during our partnership's final weeks. "This is sabotage. You're systematically targeting my accounts." "I'm responding to requests for proposals. If those requests are coming from your accounts, maybe you should ask yourself why." His face darkened. "You know exactly why. You're undercutting my prices and trading on work we did together." "The work I did," I said quietly, "while you handled lunch meetings and golf games." David Park appeared in the brewery's doorway, clearly uncomfortable with the tension radiating between us. "Ms. Mackenzo, I'm David. Would you prefer to reschedule?" "Not at all." I gave him my most professional smile. "I'm ready whenever you are." Alex was still standing there as we walked inside, his expression cycling through emotions I couldn't quite read. The meeting went better than I'd hoped. David was direct about their problems with their previous consultant. Missed deadlines, deliverables that didn't match the brief, communication that was all style, no substance. "We need someone who can create a cohesive brand strategy across all 6 locations," he explained as we sat in a corner booth surrounded by the warm buzz of the lunch crowd. "Someone who understands that craft brewing is about authenticity, not just marketing buzzwords." I pulled out my tablet and opened the presentation I'd prepared based on their initial phone conversation. "Let me show you what I'm thinking." For the next hour, we dove deep into their brand challenges. Their target demographic was shifting younger, but they didn't want to lose their established customer base. Their locations had different personalities, but they needed consistent messaging. They were planning 2 new locations, but their current branding wouldn't scale effectively. These were complex problems that required understanding business operations, not just creative concepts. "This is exactly what we need," David said as I wrapped up my presentation. "Someone who gets that strategy has to work in the real world." I'm glad it resonates. When would you need to see initial deliverables? How's 2 weeks? I thought about my current workload, my dining room office, the fact that this was exactly the kind of project that could establish my reputation as more than just Alex's former assistant. 2 weeks works perfectly. As we shook hands outside the brewery, David said something that stayed with me. "Between you and me, we should have made this change months ago. Sometimes it takes time to realize you're working with the wrong consultant." Walking back to my car, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Confidence that had nothing to do with proving anyone wrong and everything to do with knowing my own worth. August in Portland was unusually hot, and my dining room office was starting to feel claustrophobic. The Cascade project was going brilliantly. Their brand strategy was coming together faster than anticipated, and David had already started talking about their expansion plans. Thompson Industries had signed me for a 6-month retainer. Nordstrom wanted to discuss their holiday campaign. I was succeeding. Not just surviving, but actually thriving in ways I hadn't during the partnership. That's when I decided to take the biggest risk yet, renting real office space. The building on Southeast Morrison was nothing fancy. A converted warehouse with exposed brick and large windows, the kind of place where small businesses and creative firms clustered together. But it had something my dining room didn't: legitimacy. I was signing the lease when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Sandra, it's Alex. I got your number from Sarah's office. We need to talk." I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I screenshot it and deleted it without responding. But he didn't stop there. Over the next week, the messages escalated. "I know you're getting my texts. This is childish. Call me back. We can work something out. You're going to destroy both our reputations if this continues. Fine, have it your way, but don't expect me to recommend you when your clients start asking questions. Finally, I can't believe you're actually doing this well without me." That last message came through my mutual friend Lisa's phone number. He'd convinced her to let him call me about business. "Alex?" I said when I answered, recognizing his voice immediately. "Sandra, thank God. Look, I think we got off on the wrong foot with this whole dissolution thing." I was standing in my new office, looking out at the afternoon light streaming through the windows. My business license was framed on the wall. My client files were organized in actual filing cabinets instead of cardboard boxes. "What do you want, Alex?" "I want to make this right. I've been thinking about what you said, about the money. Maybe I was too quick to make financial decisions without consulting you." Maybe. Like systematically stealing from our joint account was a minor oversight. "The dissolution is final, Alex. We both signed the papers." "But that doesn't mean we can't be collegial, professional, maybe even refer clients to each other when appropriate." I almost laughed. "Refer clients? Why not? You're doing well. Better than I expected, honestly. And I'm rebuilding. We could be stronger as allies than as whatever this is. This is me running my own business. Successfully. Without you." "I never said you couldn't." "Yes, you did. You said I'd come crawling back when I failed. You said I was just a middle-aged consultant with a calculator. You said I was the assistant, never the leader." The silence on the other end stretched long enough that I wondered if he'd hung up. "Sandra." His voice was different now, smaller. "I was angry. I said things I didn't mean." "No, Alex, you said things you absolutely meant. Things you'd probably been thinking for years. That's not— Look, can we meet? Face to face? There are things I need to tell you about what's been happening since the split." Something in his tone made me pause. Not remorse exactly, but something close to desperation. "What things?" "Not over the phone, please. One coffee, that's all I'm asking." I should have said no, should have hung up and blocked Lisa's number too. But curiosity won. "Friday, 2 p.m., Stumptown on Division, 1 hour." "Thank you, Sandra. Thank you." After I hung up, I sat in my office chair and tried to figure out why I'd agreed to meet him. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't even closure. Maybe it was just the desire to see for myself how his story was ending. Friday came with the kind of crisp autumn air that made Portland feel like possibility itself. I arrived at Stumptown exactly on time to find Alex already there, hunched over a corner table with a coffee that looked like it had been sitting untouched for a while. He looked older, tired in a way that expensive clothes couldn't hide. "Sandra." He stood when he saw me, the gesture awkward and formal. "Thanks for coming." I ordered my usual, medium roast, black, and sat across from him. "What did you want to tell me?" He ran his hands through his hair, a nervous habit I'd forgotten about. "The business is struggling. Has been since you left." "I'm sorry to hear that." "Are you?" I considered the question honestly. "Yes, actually. I never wanted you to fail, Alex. I just wanted you to stop assuming I would." I lost the Thompson account. They said they wanted to go in a different direction, but we both know what that means. Nordstrom finished out their contract but didn't renew. And Cascade... He trailed off. "What about Cascade?" "They fired me, said I wasn't delivering what they needed." He looked up at me, and for the first time in our entire relationship, his expression was completely unguarded. "They hired you instead, didn't they?" I nodded. "I've been thinking about that text I sent you, the one about crawling back." "Have you?" "It was supposed to be your reality check, proof that you needed me more than I needed you." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Turns out I had it backwards." We sat in silence for a moment, the coffee shop bustling around us with the energy of people building things, starting things, moving forward. "I don't know what you want me to say," I told him finally. "Nothing. I guess I just wanted to say it out loud, that I was wrong." He stood up, leaving his coffee still untouched. "For what it's worth, you're doing exactly what you should be doing." After he left, I sat there finishing my coffee and thinking about the journey from that first devastating bank statement to this moment. It hadn't been about revenge, not really. It had been about discovering what I was capable of when I stopped letting someone else define my worth. My phone buzzed with a text from David at Cascade. "Brand strategy looks perfect. Board-approved expansion to 2 new locations. When can we start phase 2? I smiled and typed back, "Whenever you're ready." Because that's the thing about proving someone wrong. The best way to do it is to forget they exist and focus on proving yourself right. Thank you for joining me on this journey of discovering self-worth and setting boundaries. If this story resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. And remember, you never need anyone's permission to know your own value. Sandra Mackenzo.